Coincidences are funny things, right? I promise you all I did plan to review this movie anyway, but oh boy, could the timing not be better now that the media has finally started paying attention to women's basketball for the first time in ages, now that they have their Wonder Woman to drool over. So I guess we might as well get into the last time the mouse-eared empire tried to cross-promote the WNBA using the pretty white girls as their selling point. Back around the turn of the century, when ESPN actually looked like they wanted to promote the new women's league, Disney seemed to be more or less goaded into making a cross-promotion DCOM on the lives of Heather and Heidi Berge, dubbed the tallest twin sisters in the world, and their rise to being a part of the new women's league. How does it look now in hindsight? Let's just get into Double Teamed and see. So we're transported back to 1985 and immediately introduced to Heather and Heidi Berge, played by Poppy Monroe and Annie McElwain, because when you have a DCOM budget, you don't get to pull any Parent Trap double takes. Although, since these actresses are not 6'5" like the actual Berge twins are, a lot of camera tricks and high-soled shoes were used to make these two look more statuesque, which is actually pretty impressive.
Mom?
Make her change.
No way, I was wearing it first.
So it looks better on me.
It looks the same. Doofus, we're twins, and take off my sunglasses.
You do this to torture me, right?
And yes, the mother there is played by Mackenzie Phillips, former One Day at a Time star whose career and pretty much life were salvaged by Disney offering her a role in So Weird. Man, I really should finally look more into that series now that I have the streaming. So the girls attend this small high school in Redondo Beach, where they both are on the volleyball team, but their father, a struggling accountant, is constantly worried about how he'll afford to get his two girls into college. Yeah, it seems the actual father was a lawyer who never struggled for money, so we're already out of the gate on creative liberties here. There will be quite a few of them. So naturally, when the dad from Luck of the Irish shows up to talk about college scouts and how much more likely the girls could get discovered if they were at a bigger school, this drives him to transfer the girls to Palos Verdes. The twins take it about as well as you'd expect two moody teenagers to do.
You can't do this to us!
If you'll just listen to me for a second.
Larry. Hi, sweetheart.
Mom, Heather can do what she wants, but I'm not going and you can't make me.
What do you think? Spanish or Italian for my foreign language?
I don't know. Let's just go.
I do like pizza.
Make it Italian.
Oh yeah, and this whole thing about them saying the same thing together, that's gonna be a running gag.
You guys, what's up with this freaky twin thing?
What freaky twin thing?
Now, bear with me, because it did take me a while to separate which girl was which is a big deal here. Heather is the super motivated, athletic one of the duo, while Heidi is constantly trying to find some hobby or interest of her own, despite the dad pretty much pushing her into the same activities as Heather. This all becomes important, as Heather is eventually discovered by the Palos Verdes girls basketball coach, who of course assumes she could be great at his sport since she's a giant. Heather eventually agrees to join, if only to stay in shape until volleyball season starts, but then the dad intervenes and promises the coach that both girls will play for him, even as Heidi was already preparing to join the drama club. So a story about someone being forced to choose between sports and the arts. That could actually make for an interesting Disney movie. Too bad it's never brought up again here. And this is one area where I think the movie really drops the ball, no pun intended. There's clearly a disconnect between Heather and Heidi with their inability to get along together, and if the idea of having them always in the same activity was a ploy by the parents to get them closer together, that might make for a more cohesive story. But no, it's all about the dad believing it's the only way for either of them to have a future, and yet it's just used as a plot device without truly being integrated into the story. Again, I have no idea how close that is to the real-life story, but as we'll continue to see, the movie really didn't care about making this as ring-true as possible. So the whole thing drives another wedge between the sisters, especially when Heidi turns out to be pretty good at basketball, maybe better than Heather. And it also puts them at odds with the team's star player Nikki, who studied from the Stephon Marbury playbook on how to run an offense just for yourself. And of course, that's all because she's been driving herself to be the best at everything. Also, her workaholic dad will pay attention to her. Yeah, it's that plot device. And it's all combined to pretty much push the second act, which is a lot of filler that I think is supposed to establish all of the characters bonding with one another, but just seems to drag everything down. Nikki finds out that Heidi lied about where they live while at a party and reveals to the principal that they still live out of zone in order to try and get the girls off the team. But this just leads to the family finally moving to a cramped apartment that would never pass muster for even a working-class family if this was an NBC sitcom. Again, I'm sure this is more creative liberties taken, given what I said earlier about the father's real-life status. But everyone supposedly bonds with one another on this trip east for this big tournament, and after getting some pep talk from this hunk kid on the boys' team that Heidi gets the hots for, or maybe it was Heather, who cares? At any rate, Palos Verdes eventually makes it to the state title game thanks to Heidi hitting this big free throw in the semifinal that makes everyone love her, and this pushes Heather's jealousy over the edge, driving her to take out all her frustration on the backyard court where she busts up her ankle.
It's not fair, Mom. Basketball was supposed to be my thing.
What? Wasn't volleyball your thing and you only took up basketball to stay in shape? And this is really where I just stand up and ask, who were we supposed to sympathize with here again? See, Heather was the one her father supposedly had the more respect for because she was the harder worker, while Heidi was the one struggling to find out who she really was. But now they seem to be turning everything around and trying to make Heather the sympathetic one by being the supposedly unpopular one, while Heidi just has everything come easy to her or something. And did this script have an editor at all? So the big game comes with Heather on crutches and supposedly out for the whole thing. But do we really think that's going to be true for the whole game?
Heidi, up.
All I'm asking for.
Okay, yeah, I'm willing to bet maybe there's some truth to the real Heather Burge playing through an injury in a championship game. But somehow I really doubt she actually pulled this whole Kirk Gibson, Willis Reed routine here. And that's what leads to this. Yeah, this is the one scene everyone seems to remember from the movie, which everyone has dissected as perhaps being the worst sports-related scene in the history of film. There was even someone on TikTok saying he tried this and other moves shown in the movie and was bullied in gym class for the rest of the year. Even freaking Barstool Sports got into the act with a critique video on Facebook. Damn it, Barstool, stay in your lane and leave the movie critiques to the internet geeks. So Palos Verdes wins the game. We get our touching moment afterward where the father realizes they don't have to think about the future at all times. Really, did Kenny Ortega watch this movie and get ideas? And the movie ends with a fast forward where Heidi and Heather are now in the fledgling WNBA together, albeit on different teams, despite looking like they haven't aged a day.
Listen up, big sis. It's gonna be a long night for you.
I don't think so. One second best, always second best.
Man, I really wanted to like this thing again, but seeing it years later, it really is a boring drag. I admittedly don't have everything on the real lives of Heidi and Heather, but it just looks like a lot of the truth was stretched for more drama, and they still don't get the drama off correctly. There were some potentially good messages here about the importance of family, and how you can't always focus on just the future all of the time, but it really feels like there was no direction in trying to deliver them. This was the studio that gave us the Mighty Ducks and Angels in the Outfield, so you know Disney can make sports movies work when they do it right. For what it's worth, the real Heidi and Heather seemed to like the movie okay, and it did seem to be the inspiration for others, like Haley and Hannah Cavender, who achieved their own notoriety while playing together at the University of Miami. But for me, I'm benching this movie, and am now off to watch a certain Mavericks team in the finals, which could actually be over by the time this video drops. Living an internet life is weird.